Alright, man, what it do, YouTube? It's your boy Key coming at y'all boys with a brand new video, and today we're gonna go ahead and get into another one for y'all boys, you feel me? So with that being said, we're gonna go ahead and get straight into it. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Get in that comment box, tell me how you felt about this video. Channel links, Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, all my links is down in the description. Make sure you hit every single one of them. Fuck with your boy, let's do it.
Shortly before 5 p.m. one afternoon in September of 2024, police responded to a residence in Prince George's County, Maryland, and found a girl suffering from a gunshot wound to the neck. Emergency responders rushed the victim to the hospital, where she told investigators that her mother, 32-year-old Taleka Brown, was responsible for her injuries. She said she was walking away from a disagreement with Brown when she was struck by the bullet, which sent her tumbling down the stairs and left her unable to move. The girl also claimed that Brown had told her to blame the gunshot wound on an intruder during a 911 call. Brown claimed a homeless person had broken in and shot her daughter. She later gave investigators conflicting versions of what had happened, before admitting that she and the victim...
Slow it down. So you ended up having a disagreement with your daughter. She turned to walk away and you shoot her. Not only did you shoot her, but you told her to blame it on somebody else. And then I ain't gonna cap, bro. If you shot her, there's no telling what else she was going through. Especially at 13. You feel what I'm saying, bro? Like, this is crazy, bro. We're gonna keep playing. I hope she survived. But not only that, you're gonna get attempted murder, child abuse probably. You know what I'm saying? False police report. Like, bro, I ain't gonna cap. One thing that I'm starting to realize too, though, is that a lot of stuff they don't even charge you with if they know they can get you on the bigger one. So, like, even though you should be charged with this shit, they don't, which is kind of crazy a little bit.
Were the only people in the house at the time of the incident. While executing a search warrant at the home, police recovered a handgun, loaded magazines, and a spent shell casing. Reggie Cromer, who shares another child with Brown, told the Washington Post that she seemed to be in good spirits when he stopped at the home to pick up his daughter earlier that day. The nature of the argument that led up to the shooting is unclear. In a voicemail to the victim's father from jail, Brown said that the case will go away if their daughter declines to make a statement or fails to show up in court, leaving prosecutors fearful that the girl could be pressured into refusing to cooperate. Brown remains held without bond on charges of attempted first-degree murder, assault,
if you thinking what I'm thinking, she was planning on killing her daughter or having something happen to her daughter to the point where she couldn't testify against her. This really is a throwed off individual. And look at, you know what I'm saying? She's a pretty individual, but you could tell, bro, if what they say is true with the dad coming in this, that, and the third, she probably was a little bit jealous or felt some type of way. And that's what, you know what I'm saying, started it. But a lot of these women, they need help.
Awful use of a firearm.
Got killed by your mom. That's some crazy.
Number 16. Betty Jean McFadden. After being asked not to panhandle outside a Circle K gas station in Pensacola, Florida, in March of 2022, 30-year-old Betty Jean McFadden returned to the store later that day intent on seeking vengeance. She persuaded a customer to give her money, used it to fill a red gas can, and entered the store. McFadden calmly approached the counter and doused the clerk, 39-year-old Joy Helmick, with gasoline, then threw lit matches at her until she caught fire and became engulfed in flames. In what one officer described as one of the worst burn incidents he'd ever seen, Helmick suffered life-threatening burns.
I'm not blaming her. But first of all, I don't know how you got to be too busy lacking to get some gas thrown on you. But before I even think about what it is that you just threw on me, I'm not gonna let you light no match and throw that on me. You crazy. You not moving quick enough, bro.
Percent of her body, including her face, neck, chest, and arms. She survived with help from a co-worker and customers who extinguished the fire by tossing a bucket of mop water on her. While McFadden leisurely strolled away from the scene, the gravely injured clerk was airlifted to a burn treatment center in extremely critical condition, while police tracked McFadden using a canine and arrested her on suspicion of attempted murder. She showed no remorse during questioning, asking a detective if the bitch was dead, and even laughing about what she had just done while rambling half coherently. McFadden was
gasoline incident, and even though she doesn't look how she used to, it's not as bad as I thought it would have been. She probably had a couple skin grafts and this, that, and the third, but she didn't deserve this.
initially deemed mentally incompetent to stand trial and ordered to undergo psychiatric treatment. Meanwhile, Helmick spent 3 months in the hospital, where she underwent an agonizing recovery and relearned how to use her hands after spending a week in a coma. She later went public with her story, saying that she didn't know McFadden and didn't understand why she was targeted. McFadden's mental competency was eventually declared restored, and in November of 2023, she pleaded guilty as charged. She was sentenced to life without parole.
Life without
Number
parole
15,
on attempt murder?
Marco Antonio Rubio. In May of 2021, police in Villa Park, Illinois, responded to a disturbance at a local residence. As they approached the home, officers could hear crying coming from inside. They were met by a trail of blood in the living room leading into the kitchen, where they found 24-year-old Esmeralda de Luna clinging to life. She had been stabbed to death with a butcher knife in front of her 3 children, and the 8-inch blade was lodged in her leg. Emergency responders rushed de Luna to the hospital, where she died from her injuries. The next morning, investigators turned their attention toward the abusive father of her children. 29.
That's the type of shit, bro. We gotta protect our women. We gotta protect our people. You feel me? And then protective orders, like I said, I said this in many videos, protective orders and stuff like that only work against people who follow the law. It does not work against somebody like this. That man throwed off a little bit, you feel me? No haircut, he looked like a little chia pet. He bugging, you know what I'm saying? But they need to do something better, like ankle monitor, and if you go to a certain area, you know what I'm saying, it's gonna alert them folks. They're gonna come snatch you up. It's something like that. It shouldn't be, oh, we give you this piece of paper, you can't come over here. Who cares about that piece of paper, bro? Now that woman gone.
Year-old Marco Antonio Rubio, whom she had obtained an order of protection against just 10 days earlier. Apparently angry that the order had required him to move out of the couple's shared home. Rubio had broken into the residence and killed
Another thing that I want to stop right
here
and say, I don't know if those 3 children were hers with him, or if she just had 3 children while she was dealing with him. But come on, man, if he was abusive, how did y'all make it into living together? Like, you got to think about somebody more than what you gonna feel if you stop messing with this person. What your children gonna feel? How safe are they gonna feel with this person in the house and they doing what they doing? Like, I never understood why people who are getting abused, like, do the exact opposite of what they should do to better their situation. I know sometimes they fearful and this, that, and the third, but bro, I'm telling you, first time a nigga put his hands on you, shit over with. It ain't no, oh, I'm sorry, I was just going through so. Man, hell no. You done.
the scene by the time police arrived, but was arrested while walking in the neighborhood the next morning. In March of 2024, Rubio pleaded guilty to first-degree murder. He was sentenced to 70 years in prison and is required to serve his entire term behind bars, effectively amounting to a life term. Number 14. Brian Stephen Smith. During a date in Anchorage, Alaska, in September 2019, a homeless woman named Valerie Kassler stole a cell phone from a 48-year-old benefactor named Brian Stephen Smith. When she returned to her tent, she went through the device and was horrified by what she found. Inside a folder titled Homicide at Midtown Marriott were photos and videos of a woman being tortured to death by a man with the same distinctive South African accent as Smith. In one clip, Smith could be heard saying, "In my movies, everyone dies," as the victim struggled to breathe. The woman was identified as a missing 30-year-old Alaskan native named Kathleen Jo Henry, who had long struggled with homelessness and addiction. Kassler turned the device over to law enforcement, and Henry's remains were found dumped along the Seward highway. A few days later, Smith was arrested. For several hours, he denied any knowledge of the events depicted in the footage and images. He eventually admitted to killing Henry and confessed to murdering another homeless native woman, 52-year-old Veronica Abuchuk, the previous year. Her skull had been found by a mushroom picker in April of 2019. Smith later recanted his confession and took his case to trial.
Really, like, then killed random people for whatever reason, and they just walking around like they normal people.
In February of 2024, a jury found him guilty of 14 charges, including murder, tampering with evidence, and misconduct involving a corpse. The judge sentenced Smith to 226 years in prison. Smith's true number of victims may never be known. After his trial, authorities revealed that they had found photos of another woman, beaten and most likely deceased, on his phone. She was recently identified as Cassandra Lee Boskovsky, who went missing in August of 2019. Her body has never been found, and police say there isn't enough evidence to charge Smith with her murder. It's unclear whether Smith killed any women in South Africa before migrating to the US on a marriage visa. His former mistress, Alicia Youngblood, had tried to raise the alarm a year before his arrest, and months prior to the murders of Henry and Abuchuk, Smith had told Youngblood some disturbing details about alleged past victims, but she was unable to extract more information about the crimes for law enforcement. The convicted serial killer continues to maintain his innocence from behind bars, claiming that his confession was coerced and that he knows nothing about the murders he was found guilty of. Number 13. Edward William Johnston. When 50-year-old Edward William Johnston abruptly moved out of 48-year-old Nicolette Gershie's apartment in Malta after 2 years of dating and returned to Ireland in late 2023, she focused on moving forward with her life. Several months later, Johnston contacted Gershie, wanting to reconcile, but she refused and was subjected to a relentless stalking and harassment campaign at the hands of her ex. Outraged by Gershie's unwillingness to get back together, Johnston created fake social media profiles using her photos and spread vicious lies about her personal life. He also tried getting her fired from her job at an HSBC bank, where she works as the head of mortgages, and posted her address and other personal information online while encouraging strangers to visit her. Gershie started reporting Johnston's crimes in April of 2024. 4 months later, she was scrolling through Tinder when she noticed that Johnston had returned to Malta from Ireland. Terrified that he was there to harm her, she contacted the police with her concerns, but no further action was taken. She proceeded to send her Facebook login credentials to a family member in case something happened to her. 3 days later, Johnston stabbed Gershie to death at her apartment in the city of Birkirkara. She had changed her locks to prevent Johnston from getting into the apartment, but he had still found a way in. After killing Gershie, Johnston went to a hotel bar where
to keep good people out. A criminal gonna find a way in.
he demanded a beer at gunpoint after the bartender told him they were closed for the night. He then fled the scene and ran down to the beach, where he engaged law enforcement in a lengthy standoff. The tense confrontation came to an end when Johnston charged the police with a real-looking replica handgun, prompting an officer to shoot him in self-defense. Although Gershie's last report to police went unanswered, the detective overseeing the harassment case was cleared of any wrongdoing based on his understanding that the situation was considered low risk. A look into Johnston's past revealed that he had previously served prison time for making a bomb threat at a restaurant, but his history offered no additional major clues that he was prone to homicidal tendencies.
Bro, like this is the shit I be talking about, bro. People's lives could be saved, but y'all want to move like it ain't nothing because it's not your life. You feel me? Like, I just don't understand how they could just pass up so many people, bro. I'm chilly, bro.
Kevin Eastman. When 53-year-old trumpet player Scott Sessions failed to show up for a scheduled performance in Johnstown, Colorado. In February of 2020, his bandmates knew something was wrong.
Yeah,
the
he
notoriously punctual
crazy.
musician was reported missing the next day. Not long after that, a snow-plow driver found Sessions' body. He had been bound in plastic and duct tape and set on fire, and his throat had been cut with so much force that he was nearly decapitated. Investigators quickly narrowed their sights on Sessions' recent girlfriend, Heather Frank, who he had met the previous month when she watched him perform at an event. Suspecting a deadly love triangle, they began performing surveillance on Frank and her on and off boyfriend of several years, Kevin Eastman. The relationship between Frank and Eastman was fraught with violence and abuse, but Frank seemed unable to...
Tell me this don't look like the dude from Monster House, Scary House, whatever that movie was, where they was on Halloween and the house turned into a real person. Bro, this is him, bro. He threw it off a little bit. Excuse me for what I said about the first dude. He looked a little bit crazy too, but that's just who he is. That's just him. He a victim.
Escape from the clutches of her longtime lover. Cell phone location data placed Sessions, Frank, and Eastman in Frank's apartment together on the night of the murder, and showed that Frank and Eastman had traveled to where Sessions' body was later found. Using this information, detectives obtained a warrant to place a GPS device on Eastman's car and began tracking the vehicle's movements. After seeing him and Frank leaving Frank's apartment together, after becoming suspicious that the pair were destroying evidence, police decided that it was time to make an arrest. But when they pulled Eastman over, Frank was no longer with him. A few hours later, her body was found in a burn pit on a property that Eastman had visited earlier that...
to be killed. Nobody should have their life taken from them, but that's just not the way the world works. You know what I'm saying? People die all the time. Sad to say, it's somebody dying right now, right? But you got an innocent man killed playing these dangerous games with these weirdos, these psychopaths, and you end up having the same fate. How does, like, of course this Eastman dude could be throwed off a little bit. He could be following the other dude, but ultimately it comes down to you. And this is one of them rare cases, I feel like, where because they placed her at the scene, they would have charged her with the murder too. Usually the female, the woman, they get away with the bullshit.
During questioning, Eastman behaved noticeably strangely, at one point getting on his knees and praying before singing Amazing Grace. He denied any involvement in the deaths of Sessions or Frank, but was charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder. When the case finally went to trial in 2022, the jury found him guilty on both counts, resulting in 2 life sentences without the possibility of parole plus 27 years. Eastman continues to maintain his innocence from behind bars as he appeals his case. Number 11. Sonny Kim. Just days before Christmas in 2016, Nikki Braswell awoke to a repeated explosive sound inside the Martinez, Georgia home she shared with her husband and 2 children. She initially thought her kids were setting off firecrackers indoors and was confused because they were old enough to know better. Braswell soon discovered that her teenage son, Sonny Christopher Kim, had shot his 23-year-old sister, Ashley Kim, 8 times while she sat on the sofa. Sonny's stepfather, James Braswell, would later describe his eyes as black and unfocused. He had not been his normal self that night and had opened fire on Ashley in a completely unprovoked fashion while she visited from Colorado for the holidays. After shooting his sister, Sonny pointed the gun at his stepfather and pulled the trigger twice, apparently unaware that he had emptied the magazine. James restrained Sonny.
Hey, bro, these folks, bro, be throwed off. Like, this shit don't make no sense.
Law enforcement arrived, preventing any more household members from being harmed. During interrogation, Sonny admitted to shooting Ashley and said that he had planned...
I don't remember how old they said he was, but how did he even get the gun? Well, I mean, it's Georgia. It's easy to get a gun. I ain't gonna lie. If you over 21, right now today, you're over 21, you can walk into any gun store in Georgia as long as you're not a felon and get a gun. I ain't gonna cap. But it's just like, damn, bro. Like, didn't nobody know, like, where... Nobody knew he had a gun in the crib? Like...
killing his entire family. He was unable to provide a reason for his actions, which remain unexplained to this day, and he behaved strangely during the interview, often talking to himself and people who weren't there. Prosecutors accused Sonny.
You know what I'm saying? They do some crazy shit. They go in there and they think they finna get off by talking crazy, talking to themselves and biting their ear and shit. No, bro. Like, you deserve to get slammed. You deserve to get everything that coming to you. Cause when you go in there, when you get in that prison and they look and they be like, boy, you killed your sister, boy. They gonna look at your paperwork. Be like, you killed your sister? Nah, we gotta get that. You know what I'm saying? He gonna have a very long time, bro. I ain't gonna cap though. He is a little bit thawed off, so they might give him some space. But look at her. She look loving, bro.
of murdering Ashley out of jealousy, but the siblings' parents insisted that this wasn't the case. Nikki believed that something dark and evil overcame her son that day and said that she had never seen him in that state before. Experts testified that Sonny was exceptionally intelligent but suffered from various psychiatric ailments, and the judge ultimately ruled that his mental issues did not affect his competency. In July of 2019, Sonny pleaded guilty but mentally ill to felony murder, malice murder, aggravated assault, and 2 counts of possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony. He was sentenced to life with the possibility of parole after 30 years and is receiving mental treatment during his incarceration due to the nature of his plea. Number 10. Natalie Keepers and David Eisenhower. When a teenage liver transplant recipient named Nicole Lovell vanished from her home in Christiansburg in January of 2016, her well-being immediately became a major topic of concern. She needed to take medication regularly in order to avoid getting sick, which was more or less guaranteed to happen if she went more than a few days without it. Several days after Lovell disappeared, her body was found in Surrey County, North Carolina. She had been stabbed to death, and investigators quickly traced the crime to 219.
That's not what I was expecting. I was expecting the old weirdo looking white guy. You know what I'm saying? But nonetheless, I ain't gonna cap, especially with me having a sick daughter, bro. How does she even, like, how do you let your child, like, I don't even want to say let. How does your child end up getting it? Bro, I'm on top of all of that, bro. I'm not gonna cap. Now, some parents, you know what I'm saying, they got obligations. They might have to work over when she get off of school, and she, you know what I'm saying, she get off of school, she walks straight home and stuff like that, bro. But I would have just did my best to figure it out. Like, no, bro, I'm not letting that happen, bro. I'm not letting my daughter go missing for 3 days. I'm not letting my daughter go missing for 5 minutes, bro. We in the store. You better hold on to me. You better hold on to the cart. Like, I'm not going, bro. I'm not gonna cap, bro. You gotta be more of a parent.
19-year-old Virginia Tech freshman David Eisenhower and Natalie Keepers. 19-year-old Virginia Tech freshman David Eisenhower and Natalie Keepers. Eisenhower had killed Lovell in order to prevent anyone from finding out about their inappropriate relationship, which began after the two met online, and Keepers had helped him plan the murder and cover it up. When questioned about her own motives for participating in the crime, Keepers would later tell detectives that she was a sociopath in training. On the night Lovell went missing, she snuck out of her bedroom window with a blanket and her cell phone. She believed she was going for a romantic walk in the woods with Eisenhower, blissfully unaware that she
was, but with him saying inappropriate, she was below the age of 18, and I would hate to think about how old she really was. But where's your parents at? How do they not know this is going on? I know children are good at hiding things, but there are signs, bro. You can see things changing in people. There are signs. You got to be more prevalent. Like, she snuck out. That's tough.
Being lured to her death after killing Lovell at a location near her home that he and Keepers had scouted ahead of time. The murderous pair hid the knife in the forest, dumped the victim's belongings in a river and a dumpster, and drove her body to the site where it was found in North Carolina. Text messages revealed that Eisenhower was...
So, 13 years old, she's getting the M word or R word, regardless of if it was consensual or not. She's 13 years old. She's too young to even really rationalize what's going on. Dude is a weirdo. Shawty right here, you got yourself involved in something for no reason. Like, you actually do look more thrown off than him. Talking about you a psychopath in training. Bitches, you stupid. Like, you just got involved in a murder for no reason. Not only a murder, but a murder of a 13-year-old. Some things, bro, you just be like, bro, what? Like, nigga, huh?
Confident they would never get caught, but they didn't conceal the crime as well as they had thought. Eisenhower's Lexus was equipped with a GPS device, which tracked the vehicle's movements to the body dump site, and Lovell's blood was found in his trunk. In February of 2018, Eisenhower was found guilty of first-degree murder, abduction, and concealing a dead body. He was sentenced to 75 years in prison with the possibility of parole after 50 years, followed by 20 years of probation. Later that year, Keepers was convicted of concealment of a dead body and accessory before the fact. She was sentenced to 40 years in prison. Number 9.
Bro, like,
Jonathan Quiles.
Just think about it, bro. Just think about it. Like, you just sitting there in court and you hear a motherfucker say 75 years. You only been alive 19 years. You finna serve damn near 4 times what you have lived as a free person in jail. And then you didn't even get charged for the other thing. They should have charged you for the other thing just so it'll be in your paperwork that when you get to jail, they can treat you like the weirdo you are.
Sawyer was 5 months pregnant when she left her high school in Jacksonville, Florida, during her lunch break in December of 2018 and never returned. While investigating her disappearance, police discovered that the father of her child was her married uncle. Sawyer and 33-year-old Jonathan Quiles had started a relationship the previous year. After learning Sawyer was expecting a child, Quiles had tried convincing her to terminate the pregnancy. His wife, Sawyer's aunt, was also pregnant at the time, but Sawyer was adamant about keeping her child. Evidence revealed that on the day Sawyer went missing, she drove to the junkyard where Quiles worked, believing that they were going to run away together. Witnesses, including Quiles' brother and a fellow...
I ain't gonna lie, we can't judge her. She gone, you know what I'm saying? She young, she impressionable. Why would you think that somebody who wanted you to get rid of what you were about to have would want to run away with you and start a new life for whatever reason? Like, that shit is just, that's what they be saying when they be like, people be young and impressionable and you don't, certain things just don't make sense, right? We can't do nothing but pray for her. It's not her fault. He is the weirdo. He's the weirdo. The uncle. And it always be the uncle, bro. Like, and it's not like the uncle, like, usually, like, her parents, her parents' brother or her parents' brother. It's the uncle that marries into the family. Always be a weirdo, bro. In a lot of these cases that I've watched and I've like really had a chance to dissect, it's always the married in uncle or the uncle that's messing with the sister, you know what I'm saying? The sister or the mother or the sister or the father. Like, I don't know why, bro. Them be weirdos, bro. Watch them uncles, bro.
Inmate he befriended in pre-trial detention would later testify that he admitted to strangling and shooting Sawyer. He then wrapped her body in a carpet and put her in a dumpster, knowing it would be emptied and taken to a landfill later that day. A search of the landfill turned up several of Sawyer's belongings, but her body was never found. Prosecutors nevertheless decided to move forward with a murder case, and Quiles was arrested roughly 7 months after Sawyer disappeared. He maintained his innocence, arguing that Sawyer could still be alive since her body was never found, but the state remained confident that he was guilty and opted to pursue.
This nigga said that she could still be alive because they never found the body. You deserve everything that's coming to you. Ooh!
Death penalty. Quiles spent nearly 5 years in pre-trial detention before the case finally went to trial in September of 2023. He was found guilty of 2 counts of first-degree murder and sentenced to life without the possibility of parole. Records show that his motion for a new trial was denied, and he appears to be in the process of appealing his case. Number 8. William Miller. 22-year-old University of Arkansas student Rebecca Gould disappeared without a trace in 2004, just weeks after she left her hometown of Melbourne to begin her college studies. She vanished during a weekend visit home to visit her boyfriend and was last seen leaving a convenience store. A week later, Gould's body was found near a highway miles away in Izard County. She had been bludgeoned to death and bore no evidence of defensive injuries, indicating that her killer took her by complete surprise and gave her no time to react. The case went unsolved for 16 years before receiving renewed interest in 2020 from true crime podcaster George Jarrett, who had reported on Gould's disappearance and murder while working as a journalist. Determined to solve the case, he teamed up with Jen Buchholz, a police investigator from Colorado. As part of their investigative efforts, they started a Facebook page dedicated to solving the murder. It drew a large following, but Jared and Buchholz found it odd that a man living in the Philippines named William Miller took such a deep interest in the case. Miller messaged the page's administrators directly and also left comments in what appeared to be an attempt to be helpful, but his fixation on Gould's murder seemed odd, and other followers took notice. A genealogy expert soon discovered that Miller was a cousin of the boyfriend Gould was staying with when she was killed. A job had brought him to the Philippines, where he was living with his wife and 2 children. Jared and Buchholz shared their suspicions with the police, and an investigation was launched. A few months later, Miller was taken into custody. He confessed to killing Gould with a piano leg after she let him inside her boyfriend's home to use the phone, claiming she said something that triggered his explosive temper, but that he couldn't remember what the statement was. Miller also admitted that he allowed suspicion to fall on other people, including his cousin, because it kept the focus off of him. In 2022, he pleaded guilty to first-degree murder in exchange for a 40-year prison sentence with the possibility of parole after 30 years. Number 7. Mngmtkee Thomas. Over a 4-month period started in October of 2020. An Ohio teenager named Mngmtkee Thomas was involved in 4 separate homicides in Cincinnati. The first victim, Devin Lipscomb, was Thomas's co-conspirator in a robbery gone wrong. Lipscomb was fatally shot by the victim, and Thomas was held responsible for his death. A few months later, Thomas lured 19-year-old Terrence North to a location under the guise of buying drugs. He shot into the unsuspecting victim's car, killing North and seriously injuring a passenger who was shot in the face. In February of 2021, a man named Carl Godfrey hired Thomas and 2 others to kill a man Godfrey owed money to. The 3 gunmen fired 21 shots into an SUV, injuring the intended target and killing 27-year-old DeAndre Otis. 2 days later, Thomas killed an innocent bystander, 30-year-old Donnell Steele, during a revenge shooting against someone who had shot up his friend's car. 2 years after the spate of killings, Thomas was indicted on 27 charges, including multiple counts of murder, attempted murder, felonious assault, and aggravated robbery. In 2023, he pleaded guilty to 4 counts of manslaughter, 3 counts of felonious assault, 2 counts of robbery, and gun charges, in exchange for a prison sentence of 31 to 36.5 years. During the hearing, he was seen smirking several
He gets out in his 40s though, so he got a chance at life.
times, and he laughed when a victim's surviving family member called him out on his behavior, showing a blatant lack of remorse for his crimes.
Feel about that. If you know 110% that this man committed these murders, why are you willing to allow him to plead out to manslaughter, knowing that it comes with basically half the sentence? Like, just being real, bro. Like, regardless of how many counts it is, they all running concurrent. He only serving, you know what I'm saying, whatever the highest amount of years that y'all gonna give him for those manslaughters is gonna be. It sound good. Oh yeah, he was facing 130 years, 120 years. Bro, he was facing 20 years consecutive on 6 charges. Like, that's like, bro, oh, I don't know, bro. I ain't gonna cap. I wouldn't necessarily want the person that did something to my family or did something to somebody that I love behind bars. I want that get back. But if you are gonna do it to him, slam him, like, bro, you let them get off on manslaughter. I might just do something to you and wait for him to get out and do something to him too. Like, that's crazy, bro.
Number 6. Gregory Ramos. 46-year-old Gail Clevenger vanished from her DeBarry, Florida home in November of 2018 while her husband was out of town. She was reported missing by her teenage son, Gregory Ramos, who claimed that he arrived home from school to find his mother's van running in the driveway, an evidence of a home burglary. But the burglary appeared staged, and there were various inconsistencies in Ramos's story, leading investigators to suspect that he knew more than he was admitting to. Under pressure from detectives, Ramos confessed to attacking Clevenger as she slept and strangling her to death after an argument about his grades. He showed no emotion, as he explained that it took him about a half hour to kill his mother after his first strangulation attempt had failed. The sergeant who interrogated him would later tell Click Orlando that he seemed cold, calculated, and proud of his actions. After killing his mother, Ramos used a wheelbarrow to load the body into her van and drove to a nearby church, where two friends helped him bury Cleavinger's remains beneath an outdoor fire pit. He also removed several items from the home in his efforts to make it appear as though it had been robbed, including a PlayStation console and a rifle. Prior to his mother's murder, Ramos had participated in a police explorer program and had taken criminal justice and crime scene investigation classes at his high school. He expressed ambitions of someday wanting to work in law enforcement, but he landed on the exact opposite side of the justice system with a first-degree murder charge. Ramos claimed that he snapped and killed Cleavinger after enduring prolonged abuse, but no evidence was ever found to indicate that this was the case. 2 years after the killing, he pleaded guilty to first-degree murder, abuse of a dead body, and tampering with a crime scene. As part of a plea agreement, he was sentenced to 45 years in prison, followed by lifetime probation. He's
45 years at 15, or for something that you did at 15 is insane, bro. That means Buddy getting out when he's 60. And not only are you getting out when you 60, if you make it to 60, but you on lifetime probation. So if you mess up one time, you going right back to jail for the rest of your life. That's over with, bro.
Of at least 85% of his time before becoming eligible for parole, and is scheduled to be released in 2062 at the age of 59. Number 5. The murder of Consuelo Nicole.
I'm going to be 61. Well, 60 until the end of the year. Then I turn 61. I'm going to be a billionaire somewhere. I'm talking about a nice drink with a not a, what do they call it? An umbrella in it. And you're going to be getting out of jail for killing your mama. Weirdo.
Solorio Romero. In February of 2021, 25-year-old Consuelo Nicole Solorio Romero was kidnapped from her home in Kearns, Utah, by 29-year-old Orlando Escisa Tobar and 21-year-old Jorge Rafael Medina Reyes. The young woman's neighbor, 22-year-old Fernando Marquez, held her at gunpoint until her abductors arrived. She was taken to a home in West Valley, owned by Fernando's mother, 38-year-old Carolina Marquez, whom she supposedly owed money to. Witnesses told police that Tobar and Medina Reyes each shot Solorio Romero in the head once, then dumped her body along a roadside. There were among 6 people who were charged in connection with the case, which also included Carolina and Fernando Marquez, as well as 27-year-old Ivan Jesus Acosta and 26-year-old Christian Noy Morales Gonzalez. Prosecutors were skeptical that Solorio Romero was killed just because she owed money to Marquez. They speculated that the suspects also targeted the woman because she knew too much about their connections to a Mexican drug cartel. In 2024, Tobar pleaded guilty to murder and aggravated kidnapping. He was sentenced to 2 terms of 15 years to life, which the judge ordered him to serve consecutively after learning that he had laughed and joked about killing Solorio Romero. Photos.
I'm only going back a little bit. Consecutively, not concurrent. Consecutively mean one after the other. So you was finna get off a little bit. They was finna give you a break and have them running both at the same time. But no, you got too cocky.
2 terms of 15 years to life, which the judge ordered him to serve consecutively after learning that he had laughed and joked about killing Solorio Romero. Photos and witness accounts revealed that he had also danced around reenacting the shooting and licked the victim's blood off his hand. Medina Reyes pleaded guilty to the same charges and received 2 concurrent terms of 15 years to life, while Christian Noy Morales Gonzalez was sentenced to 24 years.
What's up with niggas, bro?
Of probation for an obstruction charge. Carolina and Fernando Marquez are facing charges of murder, obstructing justice, and aggravated kidnapping, while Ivan Jesus Acosta stands accused of obstruction and desecration of a human body. Number 4. Datwayne Crudup. 27-year-old Hilltop Posse Street gang member Datwang Crudup was on parole for an aggravated robbery conviction when he killed 2 male victims and seriously injured a third man outside a Columbus, Ohio apartment building in 2021. Surveillance footage showed him exiting a car and fatally shooting 19-year-old Nicholas Cowens and 24-year-old Kevin Williams in broad daylight. Crudup got back into the waiting vehicle and fled to California. While incarcerated on an unrelated charge in early 2022, he was charged with murder, attempted murder, and felonious assault. In August of 2024, a jury found him guilty on all counts. During his sentencing hearing the following month, the court ordered several breaks so the victim's extremely emotional family members could regain their composure. In a cold-blooded display of remorselessness, Crudup repeatedly looked back at the families and laughed, prompting courtroom deputies to move him to another table. When given a chance to speak, he denied committing the murders and laughing at the victims' loved ones. He was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 46 years. Number 3. Drew Garnier. In early September of 2024, New York State troopers responded to a late-night domestic violence call at a home in the town of Masonville, where they found Samantha Garnier and her 2 children suffering from stab wounds. Emergency responders rushed the 5 months pregnant woman to the hospital, where she died from her injuries while the other 2 victims survived their wounds. Police arrested Samantha's husband, 32-year-old Drew Garnier, at the crime scene. He's accused of stabbing the victims during a disagreement with Samantha, but the specific circumstances leading up to the deadly altercation and the suspect's alleged motive remain unclear. After being evaluated at a nearby hospital, he was booked into custody on suspicion of second-degree murder and 2 counts of attempted second-degree murder. Drew remains held without bail at the Delaware County Jail amid the ongoing case. Today's topic was inspired by Miss Belosa. If you have any other topics you'd like to learn about, subscribe and let us know in the comments section below.
2 more.
Number 2. Tyshell Elise Martin. In June of 2024, paramedics responded to a report about an unresponsive child at a home in Montverde, Florida, where they found the lifeless body of a girl named Jamaria Sessions. She was covered in bruises, cuts, bite marks, and other horrific injuries, prompting the emergency responders to call the police. Home surveillance footage from earlier that day showed the victim's father's girlfriend, 34-year-old Tyshell Elise Martin, ordering her Rottweiler to maul Sessions. After the dog attack, Martin could be seen kicking, dragging, and shaking the young girl. Sessions' injuries were in various stages of healing, indicating a history of mistreatment. Other evidence, including text messages, further pointed toward a prolonged pattern of abuse. Sessions was reportedly treated differently than Martin's children.
Handle your daughter like that. And not only that, but treat her differently, end up killing her. You deserve to be in jail too, weirdo.
Who also lived at the residence and were encouraged to mistreat her. Martin remains in custody at the Lake County Detention Center on charges of first-degree murder, aggravated abuse, and neglect. Jamaria's father, Lojuan Sessions, is also detained and is facing an aggravated manslaughter charge. Both defendants have a history of selling drugs and exposing their children to danger. In October, prosecutors announced their intentions to seek the death penalty against Martin, who they say acted in a particularly cruel and heinous fashion.
That's very common.
Elisa McCommon.
Not the,
In 2023, authorities in Covington, Tennessee, began investigating claims that a local school.
Not coincidence, but ironic, or what, I don't know if that's the word I'm looking for. But like those, I don't know why people allow outsiders to come in to their house, their home, where they keep their kids, and do certain things like that, especially like to one of them. You know what I'm saying? Like, you singled out this one child for whatever reason that you just don't like, so you feel like you're gonna do this, then the third, and this cornball of a father allowed it to happen. You deserve to serve the rest of your life in jail, and she deserved a death penalty. You knew what was going on.
teacher was engaging in inappropriate conduct with several minors. 38-year-old Elisa McCommon denied allegations that she had sent explicit photos to her former students and made intimate advances toward underage individuals. But it was only a matter of time before incriminating evidence fell into law enforcement's hands. In September of that year, police arrested McCommon outside her home as her seemingly shocked husband looked on. In addition to accusations of inappropriate online behavior, she was accused of engaging in...
These folks don't be single. Like, they always have husbands. These weirdo teachers, they always have husbands. Even the dude teachers, they be having wives, but for some reason, they have an infatuation with kids and they go and work in schools, like, and they want to talk about that
illegal physical acts with at least one victim. She was arrested on more than 20 charges relating to 3 victims, including coercion, tampering with evidence, and aggravated stalking. McCommon was freed on bond shortly after her arrest, but soon ended up back in custody after allegedly contacting one of the victims. According to prosecutors, she contacted the victim from a previously unknown phone number using a code word, which meant he should be alone for the conversation. She went on to tell the victim that he would regret doing this and claimed to be pregnant with his child. The disgraced former educator will be tried on 13 of the charges in January of 2025 and will stand trial on the remaining charges at a later point in time. In the meantime, she remains held without bail at the Tipton County Jail.
I'm keep it a bean. That dude who was with her, her husband or whatever, he's gonna be the one who really getting like the short end of the stick. Like, you lost your wife to some weirdo shit. And not only did you lose your wife to some weirdo shit that she was doing, at least, this is blasting everywhere, bro. I don't know if there's something that you could do, like if he wasn't doing whatever, or if she was just a weirdo and that's what she was on. I don't know. But nonetheless, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Get in that comment box. Tell me how you felt about this video. With that being said, man, it's your boy Key checking in, checking out. We gone.